In less than 72 hours, Donald Trump will officially be a former president of the United States, but the impact of his administration could last for years. A new article in Politico magazine today asks one big question: what will Trump's presidency mean to history? Joining me right now, we have Jeffrey Wilson, who's the author of the book Shakespeare and Trump. He is a lecturer at Harvard University in the writing program. And Katty, Washington anchor for BBC News and MSNBC contributor. Welcome to you both. We'll go ladies first with you, Katty. How do you think the Trump presidency will go down in history? What do you think will be remembered?
Look, it has to be one of the most extraordinary presidencies in the United States. This was a man who threw the political rule book out of the window and in the beginning seemed to have some success in doing so. But by the end of his presidency, the chaos in America, the mishandling of the coronavirus epidemic, the economic crisis that accompanied that, and then, of course, the last 2 weeks, I think it'll be the storming of the United States Capitol, and the first sentence next to his political obituary will be Donald Trump, the only American president ever to have been impeached twice. That's how the world will remember him.
Do you think, Katty, or I guess the question is, when will we fully know what this Trump presidency was? Do we already know most of it?
I guess the question is how long-lasting the impacts of Trump and Trumpism are, right? That's what we don't know yet, Alex. And I guess that's what the storming of the Capitol raises a lot of questions about. And Trumpism are, right? That's what we don't know yet, Alex. And I guess that's what the storming of the Capitol raises a lot of questions about. Is this just Donald Trump, or are the millions of people who still believe the election was stolen, who still follow Donald Trump, do they somehow have a lasting impact on American politics that upends everything, that splits the Republican Party potentially, that gives enormous power to these social media groups and online conspiracy theories, that was fed by Donald Trump? I think that's the question we don't know. Does it die with Donald Trump at some point, or does it carry on, and has it fractured permanently the status quo in American politics?
You know, you're right. That absolutely is the question. But I have another one for you, Jeffrey, because your book, Shakespeare and Trump, you write how there are Shakespearean aspects to Trump's presidency. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, first of all, Alex, thanks for giving a little corner of your Sunday to the arts and humanities.
Of course.
Trump's America is a tragedy. And it's no wonder people keep on turning to Shakespeare. So from Richard III to Julius Caesar and Coriolanus and King Lear. So listen, as a Shakespeare scholar, I'm professionally obligated to say that these analogies are inexact and sometimes, frankly, a little bit obnoxious. But I also try to push through that a little bit and ask why Shakespeare keeps showing up in our cultural response to Donald Trump. A 400-year-old English playwright obsessed with monarchy really shouldn't be relevant in 21st century American democracy. So what does Shakespeare and Trump have in common beyond, kind of bad hair? And I think the answer is that we've been living through times of tragedy. And the thesis statement of Shakespearean tragedy is that when power is centralized at the top, the state hangs on the fragile emotions of fragile men, and bad government amplifies routine individual moral failings like ambition, deceit, and revenge into catastrophic social suffering, death, and the downfall of dynasties. I wish I had a happier message for you here on this Sunday afternoon, but as Shakespeare writes, the weight of these sad times we must obey.
Indeed. And here's how I was turned on to you. It was part of, you were quoted actually my friend Peter Baker's article in December in the New York Times saying, if there are these analogies between classic literature and society as it's operating right now, then that should give us some big cause for concern this December. We're approaching the end of the play here, and that's where catastrophe always comes. Do you think, Jeffrey, that what we have seen unfold these past couple of weeks, is that what you were imagining happening when you said this?
Yeah, it's just the latest example of something that feels like it was pulled out of these Shakespearean tragedies that we read in English classes. And I'm just so, overwhelmed by the sadness and exhaustion of it all. After 4 years of Trump, after 1 year of coronavirus, friends and family, everyone is just so tired. And I guess I'll just kind of speak to a couple people. I'll speak to to my children, first of all, hi, I love you. Second, I'm just so sorry that this is the world that we're leaving to you, and that we should have done better. And then second, I'll speak to Joe Biden. If you want to restore the soul of America, start funding those things that help us think and talk with each other. Public schools, cultural organizations, the arts and humanities. That is where America is going to be processing the trauma of these Trump years.
Yeah, you make a really good point about the arts and humanities for sure. I'm curious, Katty, given your affiliation, with the BBC and all, on a global scale, how long do you think it's going to take for America to rebuild its reputation?
That's a really good question. I mean, the events of the last couple of weeks have given huge succor to America's adversaries. Donald Trump and the riots in the Capitol gave them unnecessarily a weapon with which to beat the United States. I've made a point over the last 2 weeks of speaking to people in Beijing, in Tehran, in Moscow, and the message is the same, that America's standing is diminished, and this gives them a way to say, look, America can't lecture to the rest of the world about democracy, or the American system itself of democracy is flawed and weak, and we have a better system. That's the message coming out of Beijing. But I'm also interested in America's allies, because there was a trust deficit in the United States that built up over the course of Donald Trump's presidency. And even though there is it's no secret, a lot of America's allies are very happy to see Joe Biden being elected and coming in instead, I'm still hearing from European diplomats and European leaders, well, this could happen again, right? America has shown us that this could happen again. And at a more fundamental level, the events of the last couple of weeks have shown America's allies that it's about Donald Trump, but it's also about fractures in American society, racial inequality, income inequality, these huge angry groups in the country. And that makes America's allies nervous about trusting the United States. And I think that is going to take some time to heal. One thing that could help is a big law enforcement crackdown. I think if America's institutions responded ferociously to what happened, both in the short time by exerting judicial consequences for those that took part in this, but also in the long term by addressing the causes of this, then I think that would show that America's institutions have survived, are strong and stable, and that America is prepared to defend democracy. So there's a lot of attention being paid to the consequences for those people that took part in this and incited this.
Katty Kay, I'm always glad to have you on as a contributor to MSNBC. I love watching your BBC show as well with the news. It's wonderful. And Jeffrey Wilson, thank you for the book, Shakespeare and Trump. It was terrific going through it. Thank you both for your time with me today. Trump allies reportedly collecting money from people seeking pardons, the author of a New York Times report in the next hour.